Hi everyone, it's Bethany. Welcome back. In this video, we're crafting for Father's Day, and I have a few ideas that I like to do each and every year, or more often than not, and I'm just going to freshen up those ideas this year. So as always, a coffee mug, at least in our house, is always a great idea. So I had this coffee mug actually set aside for a year or two now. I found it at Target in their little dollar spot, and I think it was $3. So I'm just applying a little bit of rubbing alcohol to the surface, and this is just going to allow all of the dust and oils from my fingers to be removed so the vinyl lays down really nicely. And now I'm going to weed my little design. So I used a variety or a little combo of two fonts that I thought worked really well together. And as always, I'll list the fonts that I used down in the description box below, along with all the materials that I have used to bring this video together. So I thought this was super cute. This says Dad Fuel, and I used just a combination of fonts, and I really liked how those looked together. So I'm just going to weed out the centers of my letters. One thing I have found myself doing more and more lately is putting my little weeded pieces on the corner of my little carrier sheet, because I find that it's an easy way to keep track of them. And then after I'm done, I just simply grab a pair of scissors, snip that off, and everything is nice and contained. Now I'm going to grab a little piece of clear transfer tape, and I'm going to reuse this transfer tape quite a few times in this video. And I'm just going to place that right over my design, grab my scraper, and I'm going to burnish both the front and then also the back. I find that if I do both sides, then I have a better time peeling up that vinyl from the carrier sheet. I feel like it just helps everything go much more smooth. Now it's time to remove the carrier sheet, and there we are with our vinyl transferred over to our transfer tape. So I am loving this cup cradle. If you have been around my channel for even a couple days now, you know I bring this out time and time again. It was one of my best purchases, and I'll link it down below, but I love how it just cradles my cup and makes it so easy to apply vinyl without having my cup roll all around my surface. So I like to first press down in the center of my design and then go out towards the side when laying down my vinyl. And after I do that, I go back through with my scraper to add some additional pressure and make sure I don't have any bubbles. Now I'll just gently remove that transfer tape, and there's my design right on my cup. I love how this turned out. I really love the contrast, and I love all of those blues. It's just so cute. In this second craft, I am going to be making my husband a really nice shirt. I have done this each year for Father's Day, and he actually ends up really enjoying them and wearing them quite a bit. So this design may be familiar to you, and I actually have a little oopsie here, but I'll show you how I remedy it. But I used this SVG earlier in the year when I made my son a shirt just like this, and I really loved this shirt and how it turned out. My son actually gets complimented on it all the time. So I went ahead and just resized this design, and I'm going to make the same shirt for my husband. And I love that about SVGs because you can purchase them once and then you can use them a variety of times and on a variety of things. So if you wanted to make a mug out of this or a tumbler, you could. If you wanted to put this on some type of tote bag, another idea would be putting it on a garden flag, especially if you enjoy camping. It would be really fun to have on a little garden flag that you put outside your camper. I love that idea, and I actually might use this a third time and make a little garden flag from it. So I'm going to weed out all of the little centers, and this is when I realized that I accidentally, in the process of trying to save some of my iron-on, I trimmed off some of my design. So up at the top you'll see some little circles that are half circles by accident, but a little bit later I'm going to dig around and try to find those pieces so that I can get the rest of my design. So I'll just finish up weeding out all of the centers of my design. For those of you who have been around my channel for a moment, do you remember this shirt that I made for my son? It was really cute. I actually used navy iron-on a nice heather gray shirt. So this one will look a little bit different because I'm actually going to put this on a really nice forest green shirt, and it turns out really nice. So here I am finding that actual piece that I trimmed off, and look, there's actually quite a bit that I accidentally snipped off. I'm not sure how I managed to do that, but accidents happen. But what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to just weed out all of the little circles that were cut in half, because those would be just too delicate and too hard to meet up again, and I don't think that they would last very well on the shirt since they are pretty damaged. But then what I'm going to do is just bring this over to my heat press, and I'll get everything all lined up so that it'll be one image once more and get it pressed on my shirt. But before I do that, what I'm going to do is I am simply going to place my shirt and center it right on my press, and I am going to give it a little pre-press. Now this will remove any moisture from the shirt. It'll also give it a nice pressed look. That way there are no wrinkles, but I really like to do this for about 5 to 10 seconds before putting my design on. The next thing I'm going to do is lint roll the surface of the shirt, and this will just remove any lint that's on the shirt, which could prevent the iron-on from laying down nicely or from lasting on the shirt. You just don't want to have any barriers between your shirt and your iron-on. Now I'm going to line up my design. It looks pretty good, and I'm going to grab that other piece and just kind of puzzle piece it in there. Now because the liner on iron-on is sticky, it's easy to stick and make sure that it stays down. I also like to pick up the shirt and just look at it that way, kind of envisioning it on my husband or whoever I am making it for. That way I know if my design is right where it needs to be. That tends to help me quite a bit. So my design is actually bigger than the pressing field on my heat press. And so what I'll do is I'm going to press that first little section, and then I will turn the shirt around, and I will only place the area that hasn't been pressed within the pressing field. That way I can get the rest of the design ironed onto the shirt. Like I said, it is a tad smaller, but I actually love the size. And if I were to repurchase this again, I would purchase the exact same size. I find the size works best for me, even if I do have to press a couple times. This size just really works for me and how I like to craft, so I'm really happy with my heat press. Now I'm just going to bring this over to a cooler surface like my glass mat. I'm going to draw out that heat. I like to turn it over and make sure all of that heat draws out. That way we can peel this off when it's nice and cool, and it just helps speed up that process. And as I am pulling that liner off, I'm just monitoring all of the edges to make sure that everything has laid down. If not, I can just place this liner right back over my design and take it right back over to my press to give it some additional heat. But this did perfectly the first time, so I don't need to do any reheating, and I love how it turned out. I really love the contrast of that nice forest green and the white. It just looks so nice, and I know he's gonna love it. For this next craft, I really like doing picture frames for my husband. He has a nice little collection of them in his little workspace, and it's just really nice to have a really fun little collection over the years. So as always, I'm going to apply a little bit of rubbing alcohol to the surface here because it's been sitting on the store shelf for who knows how long, and I'm just going to make sure that there is no dust or oil on the surface that would prevent my vinyl from laying down. Now I'll link this frame down below. It's so cute. I love how this looks, and I think it's just so classy looking, so I decided to use a black adhesive vinyl to add my lettering because I thought that would just be a nice classy look. Now for the font that I chose this time, it's a little bit of a more thin and delicate font, so when I am weeding out something that is thin and delicate or on the smaller side, I like to weed out all the little center pieces of my design first because it just helps everything kind of stay intact, and it makes it so that it's just a tad easier to weed out if I do it in that order. I just tend to do that again if the design is smaller or if I have more of a delicate font. But give it a try, see if that works for you as well. It's just one of those more interesting little hacks that seems to work. So I'm going to go ahead and finish weeding this out. It says "One Loved Dad," and I love how this looks. I also just love the font for this too. Again, font information will be linked below in case you fall in love with this as well. Reusing that transfer tape once more, I'm just going to place it over my design. Again, burnishing down the front as well as the back. That seriously helps so much. So if you're ever struggling with adhesive vinyl, try adding this to your workflow because it really helps. And then once I am done burnishing, I'm going to simply, while it's still turned over, I'm going to remove that cutting sheet from the back and leave all of my vinyl on my transfer tape. And now we are ready to transfer it over to our actual project. Originally, I thought I was going to right justify this, but then it kind of ended up spanning the entire bottom. So I went ahead and centered it, and I really like how this looks. Now you could actually take the glass out or disassemble this and place your vinyl right on the mat, but I like to put it on the glass for a couple reasons. First of all, if you go down the road and change your mind, then you can easily remove the vinyl from glass, much easier than a mat, but also because it gives it more of a dimensional look, and it's kind of hard to see on the camera, but you can kind of see a little shadow look, and I really like how that looks in person. It's just really classic looking, and it just adds a little fun look to it. For our final little craft, I found this little, I guess, beer mug. I don't know what to call it, but I found it at Dollar Tree, and I thought this was a really cute idea for a Father's Day gift. Now, my husband actually cannot have beer because he is celiac, and so he'll probably enjoy a nice cold apple cider out of this, but I thought this was a really fun idea. So I also found a really cute SVG, which I'll link down below. I believe this actually had a mustache as part of the SVG, but I went ahead and took that out because I wasn't quite fond of it for this project, and I instead just left the lettering. I thought this lettering was really cute, and I liked the not only size but the shape of it for this particular project. So now I'm just kind of nudging everything down. Sometimes the adhesive vinyl wants to come up as you're weeding it, but it just takes a little practice and patience to get it all weeded out. And in the end, if you're just patient enough and you take your time, everything seems to work out, right? All right, finishing this up, I'm going to do that same thing that I did last time. I'm going to just kind of collect all of my bits and pieces on the side of that carrier sheet. It just really helps, and it just keeps everything contained. We've talked about this on my channel before, that we can find these pieces all around our house, on our socks, and all these little weeded pieces just end up everywhere. So this is just a little trick that I'm trying to add to my workflow to contain all of those little weeded out pieces. And then you guessed it, we're using the same transfer tape once more, and I love that I can also just place it right back on the sheet that it comes on, since this transfer tape doesn't come in like a sticky roll, but it has a paper backing, which is really nice because after this project is done, then I can further save this transfer tape as well. All right, now I'm going to position this on the actual mug. I really, again, really like the size of this. I think it just really looks good on this mug, and I feel like it really took the shape of the mug really well. And then I'm just going to go through with my fingers once more and make sure that everything's pressed down, and then I'll replicate all of that pressure with the actual scraper to make sure I remove any bubbles. Just being very gentle on those curves too. Then I'll just remove the transfer tape, and I have my final design on the mug. I think this looks so fun. I'm really happy with how this turned out, and I think it's a really fun idea for Father's Day. And here's a look at the final 4 projects that we did. I think these turned out really fun. If you want additional ideas for Father's Day, I'll be sure to link additional videos that I have done each year. They are always super fun to craft for these dads in our lives, and it's a really fun way to get crafty yourself, use your Cricut, and make some homemade gifts. I love how everything turned out. I hope that you were inspired as well. Be sure to let me know which one was your favorite down in the comment section, and also be sure to let me know what you are making for Father's Day if you intend on crafting this year. I can't wait to see you in the next video. Be sure to give this a thumbs up if you enjoyed this, and I'll see you all in the next video.